WHO. In the meantime, the U.S. is leading the world in artificial intelligence innovation. And that makes you want to say, USA, USA, except this does have serious implications for American workers. Let's talk it over with the Senior VP of Government Affairs at Americans for Responsible Innovation. That's Satya Thalam, who is on the Davison Family Dentistry Newsmaker line. Satya, welcome to WHO Radio. Good morning.
Good morning. How are you?
I'm doing good. So let's talk about this. Okay, we're leading the world in artificial intelligence innovation, but what's the implication for American workers? Are there going to be a lot of jobs lost in the future?
I mean, look, in some ways we are seeing something that's analogous to the Industrial Revolution, but where there was a rapid increase in investment and new ideas and new patents that eventually, yes, unfortunately disrupted a lot of industries. You had lamplighters who were protesting the introduction of electric lamps. And right now we're seeing something similar with automated in trucking. But the thing that people forget about the Industrial Revolution is that it actually occurred over decades. It took 70 years for the steam engine to really become common in trains, right? And the thing with AI is it's happening much, much faster on a much tighter timescale.
So, I'm pro-business, limited government, Satya, but I mean, is this an area where the government needs to step in and slow things down a bit, or what are you thinking here?
Well, look, I'm like you. I think for the most part, markets work best when they're left alone, when people are free to experiment and invest and try things. But I put it to you this way. Looking back on social media, does anybody think that if we had the opportunity, say 10, 15 years ago, we shouldn't have put in some reasonable rules of the road, for instance, with respect to social media and children, social media and who owns the data that you produce when you interact with social media, something that reflects some basic principles. Look, AI, the development of AI ultimately reflects the priorities and the principles of the people who design it. And we have to think about that when Congress is, and they will this Congress, they will be taking up AI legislation. They have to be thinking about how are we putting humans at the center of AI development? How are we putting labor and the economy at the center of AI development? And ultimately, we want the U.S. to lead because if we don't set those standards, other countries will. And I'll give you one guess who's gonna be our main competitor in it.
China?
That's right.
You only had to give me one guess, my friend. That's exactly right.
And is that? Do we think they'll do a better job?
Well, I don't. Given that it's China and there's big government, no. But I mean, we can't let them lap us in this, right?
Yeah, and I think, and we're starting to do the kinds of things we should. I think the incoming Trump administration has made clear that making investments, protecting U.S. innovation is a number one priority. So we need to do the things that are necessary to both slow China down, to hit the accelerator on U.S. innovation. But it's not unreasonable to say, look, we know this is going to have some disruption. This is going to change some industries. So let's put together some kinds of programs that will help workers who are displaced. There are a couple things out there. Chairman Mark Green has put out the Cyber Pivot Act that helps people with full 2-year scholarships for skills training and in technical fields. There's another one by Senator Peters. These are kind of small ball, but these are the kinds of ideas that we need.
Well, you're listening to Satya Thalam, by the way, of Americans for Responsible Innovation. So how do we go too far? Because I know when the dock workers were striking over artificial intelligence and said, hey, we need a guarantee we're never going to lose our jobs, there were folks on the conservative pro-capitalist side of the spectrum that said, we can't protect every job. Innovation results in, let's say it, less expensive products for American consumers. So how can government go too far in regulating artificial intelligence?
Well, and that's a really good example. And it wasn't the first strike where AI was at the center of it. And it won't be the last. The SAG-AFTRA strike, the actors, the directors, producers, AI was a big deal. You had the head of the longshoremen union saying that he wished that automatic toll booths had never been invented because it displaced jobs. Look, this is the nature of technology. Ultimately, consumers will benefit. Ultimately, the economy will benefit by the development and the diffusion of this kind of technology. That's just part of it. That's how advanced capitalist economies advance and improve, and quality of life increases. I think the government should do a couple things. First, it can't guarantee that all those jobs will exist, but it can do these kinds of things to help transition folks and invest in communities to make sure that they're not hollowed out. The other thing is, there are things that are non-regulatory that we can do. Going back to setting standards in a lot of cybersecurity areas, the government did yeoman's work in doing technical research, in establishing best practices, but they're not regulatory. Nobody is required to follow them. But you know what? Most companies do. Most Fortune 500 companies do. They take them and they adapt them for themselves. I would rather the U.S. lead on those kinds of efforts than China or other companies, because the rest of the world will adopt our standards too. And we don't have to mandate them. We don't have to use the long arm of government to, be constantly pressuring and looking over the shoulder. Companies want to do the right things, but we do need the government to help coordinate that effort.
Satya Thalam is from Americans for Responsible Innovation. Thought-provoking conversation this morning. Thank you for joining us on the WHO Radio Morning Show.